Welcome to Left Undone, Incomplete Investigations. I'm Kathryn. I want to talk about the Florida massacre of the 3 young men that were fishing. Horrible, 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 horrible story. And that sheriff down there in Polk County, Florida, I am very impressed with him. Very, to say the least. So, please subscribe, please like, please ring the bell, and welcome to Left Undone, Incomplete Investigations. I'm Kathryn. What we know is there's been 3 people arrested in this triple murder. It is horrific. The 3 men were beaten and killed during their fishing trip in Frostproof. It was a Friday night and they wanted to go fishing to catch catfish at like 10 o'clock at night. Polk County, Florida. As the sheriff says, a very wholesome outing for 3 young men that have been friends for a very long time. According to the deputies, the boys that were killed, the young men, Damion Tillman, he was 23, Keven Springfield, 30, and Brandon Rollins, 27. They were found dead with upper body trauma. Their bodies were found near Lake Streety Road and US Highway 27, a very rural area. The investigation initially showed that around 10:06 p.m. Friday, Rollins called his dad and said, help. His dad was sleeping. His dad got out of bed, got in his car, and drove to where he knew the boys were fishing. But when he got there, he realized something terrible had happened. The dad knew that who he was with. He knew he was with Keven and Damion. And Brandon's dad drove down there. When he arrived, Brandon was still alive. Barely, but he was still alive. And he was able to speak to his dad. What he said was not released initially, or as far as I know, it's not been released yet. The 2 friends were already deceased when the dad got there. He did leave. He ran to a convenience store, called 911, and came back. When the first responders arrived, all 3 of these guys were dead by the time the first responders got there. It appeared they'd been beaten and shot. The families and friends say that the 3 men had been best friends for years, and they were just buddies going out fishing to have a good time and catch some fish. This week during a news conference, the Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd, he did share that Tony, TJ Wiggins, age 26, William Robert Wiggins, 21, and Mary Whittemore, 27, were all arrested. Investigators pieced together the evidence from the killing by going through some information, talking to people, realizing that there was a receipt from Dollar Store General. The store clerk told the detectives that Damion said he was going fishing, and the clerk also saw the suspects in the store at the same time. The store clerk wound up telling the detectives that they heard Damion say he was going fishing and that Keven would be there. He heard them talk to each other about this, and the fact that they were saying that Keven was going to be there. The investigators were like, let's look at the videotape, the security camera tape. They did receive tips that one of the suspects might be Tony Wiggins. And then at that point, Tony Wiggins was positively identified in the store security camera. Everybody knows that Tony Wiggins is the prime suspect for anything that goes wrong. That's easy to assume, they said, when he's 26 years old, and he's got 230 felony charges. He's been arrested consistently since he was 12 years old. This dude, I don't even understand why he's been out on the streets. Honestly, he's a hot freaking criminal from the age of 12. Would love to dig into his background and upbringing. Now, on Sunday, the detectives did serve a search warrant at the parcel of land on Sarver Avenue in Lake Wales where a travel trailer was parked. The travel trailer was occupied by TJ Wiggins and his girlfriend, who is the other person that was arrested. She's 27 years old, and her name is Mary Whittemore. And then the other one is 21-year-old William Robert Wiggins, who is the brother of TJ. He also lives on that property in another trailer on the same plot. So they all live in this plot of land. The couple live together, Mary and TJ, and then the brother lives in another trailer right there. The authorities did serve that search warrant, and during the search, they found 2 SKS rifles, 2 Mossberg shotguns, ammunition for both in a gun safe that belonged to TJ Wiggins. Now remember, and this was noted in the press conference, he's a felon. He's not allowed to have guns. He's not. So that right there is another felony right on him right off the bat. He was immediately arrested for having possession of a firearm because of being a convicted felon, and possession of ammunition by a convicted felon. The ammunition, and that was compared to the shell casings that detectives found at the scene, and they were a positive match. So it turns out that Mary, the girlfriend, bought the ammunition for TJ early this month in July. She bought the ammunition for him. They interviewed all 3 of them, the TJ, his brother, and Mary, and their stories were inconsistent. Everything was inconsistent. They contradicted each other. Nobody's story was straight. Whitmore, the woman, Mary, did admit to purchasing the ammunition and to being with the brothers on the night of the murder. Now, both of the brothers, the Wiggins brothers, they were interviewed, and officials said that their statements were inconsistent. So we all know they were telling a bunch of lies. During additional interviews, Robert admitted to seeing Damion in the Dollar General store on Friday evening while he stood in line behind Damion with his brother TJ. So TJ was in the dollar store, brother Robert was in the dollar store, and he said, yes, we did see Damion in the dollar store. When they left the store, TJ directed Robert, who was driving, to turn onto a particular road instead of going where they had planned to go. 2 trucks occupied by the 3 victims passed Robert on that road, at which time TJ told Robert to make a U-turn and follow the trucks. Robert complied with his brother, criminal TJ, and followed the trucks to Lake Streety Road in Frostproof, which is where this murder happened. Robert says he stayed in the truck with Whitmore, the female, while TJ got out of the truck, confronted Keven, punched him, and yelled at him, accusing Keven of stealing his truck. So it was more about he stole the motor of his truck, is what the news clip did say in the interview. So he went to beat up Keven for this stealing of his truck motor. Robert told detectives that he watched as TJ, his brother, shot all 3 victims. Now, after the shootings, TJ asked his brother Robert to help him put Damion into back of one of the trucks. Then after that, they went to McDonald's because, you know, after you sit there and murder or watch murder or part of a murder or do the murder yourself, you're hungry. So they went to McDonald's, and apparently this is the only part of the story that's consistent. They ordered 10 double cheeseburgers and 2 McChicken sandwiches. Then on Saturday morning, the next morning, Robert took his truck to a car wash in Lake Wales and washed the clay from it because he knows his truck was at the scene of the crime and the clay dirt from the road would be on his truck. Now, they're saying that neither Tony Wiggins or Whittemore are cooperating with the detectives. So Mary and Robert, they've been charged with tampering with evidence and accessory after the fact of a capital felony. So they may wind up with more charges as the investigation continues and as they find more and more information. TJ Wiggins has been charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and possession of ammunition by a convicted felon. Sheriff Judd said, quote, "This is evil in the flesh. This guy who can hurt you just because it's the right thing for him to do at that moment in time with his 3 brain cells. Very much would like to seek the death penalty." TJ's criminal history: 230 felonies, 15 convictions, 26 misdemeanors, and 2 trips to state prison. And he's walking the streets. We're letting criminals go, guys, and this isn't okay. He also said, "We pray that the state attorney can seek the death penalty. He needs to receive a fair trial, the appropriate appeals, and then be executed," he says. He also said, you know what? Legally, we can't execute him like he did to those 3 guys who were just trying to fish. Just trying to fish. They were just trying to fish. He's quoted to say, "Nor would we suggest that the system would be as barbaric as his conduct to the 3 victims." And during the news conference, he said the families of the victims are poor and that donations to help them bury their loved ones would be very helpful. These people do not come from, they're not wealthy people. They were probably fishing to actually catch food to eat. So there is an address to send donations to help the families. He said, "We've had a lot of people offer to give us more money for a reward. We don't need that, but if there's an inclination to help these folks bury their loved ones, I'm certain that would be appreciated because there's nothing worse than having to bury your child unless it's your having to bury your child and you don't have the money." So these criminals went to court today. We will keep following this case to be able to know the history of how this young man at 26 years old had 230 felonies, is still walking the streets, and is just a plain old common criminal that eventually would wind up being a murderer. You know, some people don't belong out. They just don't. Thank you again for watching Left Undone: Incomplete Investigations. I'm Kathryn. Keep these families in your prayers. Donate if you can. And please be kind. Stay safe. Stay well. And we're trying to still stay home for now. I'm Kathryn.